Glendora Simonson. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and I lived there until I got married. I went to public schools in Newark. Elementary school, I went to Belmont Runyon, actually, and then I went to Hawthorne Avenue School, and then I went to Southside 1 year, and then the name was changed to Malcolm X Shabazz. Yeah, I'm a Newark person. College, went to Wheelock College, actually in Boston, and to study education. But even while I was in high school, I took college classes. I took some classes at NJIT, and actually it was Newark College of Engineering when I first went there. So that kind of got absorbed. And then I did my graduate work at Columbia, Teachers College, Columbia University. I think I was interested in fiber arts as far back as I could remember. My mother sewed, her mother sewed. We did lots of crafty things, and so I think I was always interested in fiber arts. I was crocheting, I was knitting, I was sewing. We did lots of stuff that was crafty, artsy. We had modest means, of course, so you had to do some things. You had to make your own clothes. If you wanted a new outfit, we didn't have money to go to the store and buy it, but we always had remnant fabric from Woolworth and other places so you could make an outfit. The quilting I do now is kind of a combination of my interest in art and the interest in fibers. When I was a kid, we made utilitarian quilts, which meant we took an old sheet and we put clothes that you didn't need anymore inside, and that was the filling. And then we would sew them together. My mother didn't believe in just laying around watching TV, so when we'd have a week off from school, we had a project to do. We had to make the big stitches, and that was somebody's quilt. You know, the heavy old quilts, the ones that you had to get in position before you pulled it up, because otherwise it would be too heavy for you couldn't toss and turn. It was a weighted blanket before that became a thing, you know. The weaving, I always did knitting and crocheting. I learned sewing on a machine. My mother started teaching me when I was maybe 7 to make straight seams. And then I would do clothes for my dolls. I did simple things for myself. So I was sewing clothes, knitting and crocheting doll clothes. I remember making a gown for one of my Barbie-like dolls, and it was strapless and it was fitted. She was quite svelte in it, you know. But so I think that I've always done artsy, textile-y stuff. I used to draw, but I don't think I did a lot of painting, simply because we didn't have it. But we had paper and pencil, you know, that was easy to do. That was readily available. I think it was kind of a natural combination of my interest in art and the sewing. I think I did my first quilt, real quilt, traditional quilt, not leftover clothes. They weren't, and the ones we did when I was a kid, they weren't cut up into little patches. Like, we would just take the pants seam out and lay the whole front of the pants down in the quilt. I started doing patchwork a little bit because I liked sewing things with details. So if I made a shirt, I liked the ones that had pleats in it, tucks in it. If I made a blouse, I liked having the cuff on it and like gathers on the cuff. I didn't like just the plain front one. I was always doing lots of details. So I did a baby quilt. I think that was my first quilt, and it was in the Simplicity pattern book. And it had some embroidery, it had some patchwork, it had some applique, and it was really cute. It was fairly traditional, gingham fabric, paisley, calico, and like off-white background. So then I took all the while I was still making clothes, I did that. I still crocheted hats, scarves, that kind of thing. And I was taking classes, painting at adult schools, courses at the Newark Museum, experimenting with things on my own. And I took a quilting class at the Montclair Adult School, and I discovered you could measure the things you were cutting out and cut at the same time. It was like the rotary cutter is like a pizza wheel, but you use it with an acrylic ruler, and then I didn't have to like make a pattern, a template, cut that out of cardboard, and then trace it, and then cut it, and then leave a seam allowance. I thought that was the best thing ever. So I really kind of took off. I continued taking quilting classes. I wasn't a novice when I started quilting because I had this sewing background. But the creative stuff was really a major influence. So I did a pattern or a quilt block, and I didn't want to do it just the way the little instructions said to do it. I think my first formal quilt from this class had a lot of calico. I saw more exciting fabrics, but I didn't know what to do with it. I figured out what to do with it. And so now I hardly ever use calico or gingham or more sedate fabrics. That I really go in and sometimes look for fabrics that speak to me, that excite me. The color is intriguing, or I start thinking, I wonder what would happen if I paired it with this, that kind of thing. And so that creativity informs what I do. Yes, I liked Faith Ringgold's work. She did painting on fabric, and she would do quilts. I also liked a couple of blocks. It's a traditional block, the log cabin block, which is really very simple, square and then little strips around it, which is my absolute favorite block. And then Bisa Butler, of course, who does portrait quilts. I've taken a couple of classes with her, but the things she was doing I thought were phenomenal. I also liked Joy Seville. I think she passed away. But she did so many intricate, abstract things. I kept trying to think, how did she do that? And so some of the recent pieces I'm doing are influenced by her as well. I still like weaving. A friend taught me how to thread the floor loom, and the rhythm of throwing the shuttle and working the foot pedals really appeals to me. So I like doing that too. But yeah, the influences, Bisa Butler, Faith Ringgold, Joy Seville, and my own need to tweak things, to adjust it, to modify, to have it reflect another sensibility. It kind of developed over time. Professionally, I worked as an educator. I went to Wheelock College in Boston, studied early childhood education, did my graduate work at Columbia Teachers College, special education. And then all the while I was taking art classes and still making clothes and taking classes at the Newark Museum and adult schools. So one day I was taking a class at the Newark Museum, and the director of the arts workshop, the adult arts workshop, saw one of my finished pieces. And then he asked me to teach a class. And I was a little surprised. Like, I was always doing artsy things, but I was a little surprised that he would want me to teach a class. I think I was a little hesitant about art career. I didn't think it would be viable because of the level of impoverishment that we had, that I thought you need to get a good job, quote unquote, so you have a pension and benefits, and that I did not trust that I could actually make some money doing this art. But I kept doing it and kept doing it. And so I kind of stumbled into it. I kind of stumbled this drive to create and do contemporary things with textiles has always intrigued me. So that's kind of how I started. I think the first exhibit was at the Montclair Public Library. I met someone who, she was developing an arts program for that library, and I knew her socially, and she asked me, one, to teach a course and also to put some things on display. So that was my first exhibit. And then after we started the Nubian Heritage Quilters Guild, we meet here in Montclair, although we started in Newark, affiliated with St. James AME Church, which is on Martin Luther King Boulevard, the old High Street. We met there for several years until the Blake House was converted to a health center. So we would meet there once a month. And then we had like a transitional place, and then we moved our guild meetings to here, to Montclair. I'm one of the co-founders, and Carolyn Davis is the other co-founder. Carolyn took one of my classes at the Newark Museum, and we were both sewing enthusiasts and wanted to, like the idea of having a guild that would reflect some African and Afrocentric themes. There were other quilt guilds in this area, but they really liked calico, and they liked, sunbonnet Sue, and they liked, a really sedate color palette, and we didn't. And so Carolyn actually found the space for us to meet. We started, I think it was in 1995. So we've been meeting a long time. And we've, that's kind of how we started. We started out teaching people who wanted to know how to quilt. I think we had our first exhibit within 5 years. Our guild put on an exhibit at Algira Gallery in Newark. And that was funny because we were looking for a place, and I think the director of that gallery assumed we were going to have real calico quilts. We surprised him. But when you hear quilts, you don't always think art quilts or portraits or abstract pieces. So that was our first exhibit, and I think we had a 10th anniversary exhibit also, which was really very interesting. And then we discovered the History Center in Montclair. was coming home from church, and I drove down Orange Road, and they had a sign out for a quilt show. So I stopped, I went in, saw the show. Again, very traditional quilters, but I thought, if they can have a show here, so can we. And so we started a relationship with them, and it's been going on a long time. Usually it's every other year we'll do a show with them. But the Nubian Heritage Quilters has a good partnership with them. And we found out during our first show there that it used to be the YWCA for Black women who were moving from the South or other places and needed some place to stay in Montclair. That even if you were a student at Montclair, they weren't allowed to stay in the dorms. So they would stay in this house. So that I think it was a spiritual connection. Our quilts felt quite at home in this house that used to house Black women. I struggled with that because I knew I kind of took a circuitous route because I really was focused on getting a good job, quote unquote. But I would say that even if you have to get a good job, that to continue pursuing your passion, that is not an accident, that you have the urge to create, that it really is your calling. And you need to honor that. You need to respect the talent and the urge to create. And if you have to start out slowly or part-time, do that. But don't put it on the back burner. Don't try and squash it. Don't try and dismiss it because it's not practical. Beauty feeds the soul. And yes, there are practical things, but if you have the urge, the talent, the drive to create something beautiful, I believe other people are supposed to see it. You're a musician, they're supposed to hear it. You're a dancer, you're supposed to express it. So I would say, pursue your passion, respect it, give it the time and place and space you need in order to work on your craft. And to maybe not be as hesitant as I was to embrace it as a viable option. I was talking to my daughter earlier, and I said, it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago before I actually said I'm an artist. Like I did artsy things, but I didn't really say I was an artist. And I was, but it was like there had to be a shift in my frame of reference before I embraced it. So I think you need to honor that little voice and that creative urge. And you'll end up where you're supposed to, I think.